The moment the chosen one begins to shed the heavy cloak of inferiority is not always marked by a grand event. Often it happens in silence, between breaths, in glances exchanged, in moments when the world doesn't seem to notice, but your soul begins to shift. There is no lightning in the sky, but there is a storm within. The old self, the one that shrank in the presence of women, that questioned its worth, that mistook quiet energy for weakness, begins to fracture. It does not happen all at once. You begin to notice how your body no longer responds with tension in conversations. You're no longer hiding your voice, your gaze, or your thoughts. You are there, fully present. The air no longer feels too thick. The moments no longer feel too long. There's no more second-guessing your right to be seen. It is not arrogance. It is not rehearsed confidence. It is the quiet, undeniable truth. You are no longer inferior, and you never were. For so long, you may have felt unworthy in their presence, like you had to apologize for your very existence, for your longing, for your masculinity, for the way your energy hummed and glowed and threatened to rise. You may have hidden it, dulled it, redirected it into silence, but now something has awoken. A different awareness, one not born of ego, but of deep remembering. You realize that what you carry is not shameful. It is powerful. It is divine. Your high sexual energy, once a source of discomfort or confusion, now pulses with purpose. You begin to see it as more than lust or desire. It is life force. It is the raw current of creation, the fire of vision, the pulse of purpose. It is what draws people in, what opens doors, what builds universes within gaze and word. It is not a tool of seduction, it is a signal of transformation. And when you finally see it this way, your posture changes. You no longer flinch in the presence of feminine beauty. You don't retreat into performance or freeze into avoidance. You remain still, open, unapologetic. You recognize that your presence carries a signature that cannot be denied, and it no longer needs to be hidden. You are not here to impress. You are not here to prove. You are here to be, and that is more than enough. This awakening is sacred. It is not loud, but it is unstoppable. You are now stepping out of the shadow you once lived beneath, not to stand above others, but to walk beside them as an equal. You are not seeking approval. You are no longer comparing. You are not asking to be allowed. You are simply arriving. You are the chosen one, and the illusion of inferiority has dissolved. With the awakening comes a deeper recognition, one that doesn't ask for validation from the outside world. It is not a performance that seeks applause, nor a facade built to keep up appearances. It is the spiritual recognition of who you are at your core, beyond shame, beyond fear, beyond the stories others may have placed upon you. You begin to feel yourself in your full presence, and others begin to feel it too. The recognition is subtle at first. A shift in how women respond to you, not because you've changed your clothes or spoken new lines, but because your energy now stands unshaken. You are no longer shrinking. You are no longer compensating. You have become rooted, and others can feel it. They sense something in you that doesn't flinch. A calm that doesn't depend on attention, a confidence that doesn't shout, a heat that doesn't burn to destroy but to illuminate. They feel it in the pauses between your words, in the way your eyes don't dart or seek approval. They feel it in your silence. You are not trying to charm them. You are not angling for affection. You are simply there, grounded, complete. This is where the magic of your high sexual energy begins to speak fluently. It becomes language without words, a frequency that says, I know who I am. I am not here to take from you. I am not here to chase. I am here to witness, to stand, to create. And in response, the world shifts, not because you force it to, but because you've aligned with what you always were. The recognition isn't just external. It's not about how others respond. It's about how you now respond to yourself. You look in the mirror and no longer see someone who must work to be worthy. You see someone who always was. You no longer doubt your presence in any room. You no longer twist yourself to be palatable. You are becoming a man who walks in his truth, who understands that his energy is not a problem to fix, but a gift to offer. Women, in your presence, sense the difference. They are drawn not to performance, but to truth. Not to fantasy, but to presence. They feel safe, not because you hide your power, but because you've mastered it. They feel awake in your company, not because of what you say, but because of what you don't have to say. You, the chosen one, have crossed into a new state of being. The recognition is complete when you no longer ask the world to see you, but when the world can't help but notice. Not because you shine brighter, but because you've stopped dimming yourself. You have stepped into your name, not by force, but by remembrance. You are no longer inferior. You are seen. You are aligned. You are the storm and the calm, and you have only just begun. There is a sacred crossing point in the journey of the chosen one, and it is not marked by applause, accolades, or even the acknowledgement of others. It is marked by a feeling that comes from within, steady, burning, undeniable. It is the moment you step beyond the idea that your energy is something to be managed or hidden, and realize instead that it is something to be transcended. Not suppressed, not flaunted, but wielded with grace. Where once your high sexual energy may have felt like something explosive or overwhelming, now it settles into you like a crown. No longer wild and uncontainable, it flows through you with precision. You have learned the rhythm of it. You felt the pull of the gaze, the electricity in a touch, the gravity that draws people in. And now, you no longer lose yourself in that gravity. You remain anchored in your essence, while the world leans closer. This is transcendence, not because you rise above others, but because you no longer measure yourself against them. You no longer view women through the lens of fear or fantasy. You see them as reflections of spirit, complexity, and divine mystery. You see clearly now that your energy is not a lure or a trap. It is not a means to control or seduce. It is a sacred invitation, and it is not always meant to be accepted. There is power in knowing that not every door is meant to be opened, not every glance is meant to be pursued. The chosen one, once tempted to prove his worth through conquest or attention, now understands that the real proof lies in restraint, in discernment, in the stillness of knowing he could, but chooses not to. There is strength in that pause, in the unsent message, in the path you do not take because it does not align with your truth. You are no longer responding to the world with the hunger to be chosen. You are the chosen. That distinction changes everything. Now, when your energy moves, it does not demand, it offers, and only those aligned with your purpose can feel it fully. You are no longer resonating with every wandering heart. You've become specific, intentional, rare. And this rarity is not arrogance, it is stewardship. You understand the weight of your influence. You know how quickly attraction can blur into illusion, how easily admiration can become projection. You've learned that being desired is not the same as being seen. And so, you've stopped performing. You've stopped seeking mirrors. You've stopped mistaking chemistry for connection. In this transcendent space, you feel light. Because you're no longer dragging the need to prove anything. You are not less passionate, but more purposeful. You're not cold, you're clear. Your energy no longer chases or conquers, it radiates, and it attracts those who are ready not just for your presence, but for the standard you now carry. You are no longer the storm of unfiltered desire. You are the calm within the chaos, the pulse of something sacred. And in this you find peace, not because you've tamed your power, but because you finally learned to walk beside it. There is a quiet beauty in the balance that emerges once the chosen one learns to live in harmony with his energy. This equilibrium is not the absence of intensity. It is not the numbing of desire or the softening of masculinity. It is the full embodiment of both fire and focus, of passion and precision. It is the ability to stand in your truth without shaking, and to allow others to come close without losing the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Equilibrium is a state where your high sexual energy no longer controls you, nor is it used to control others. It simply is. Present, powerful, and under your stewardship. You've learned to carry it without spilling it, to express it without manipulation, to feel it without being enslaved by it. This balance becomes your resting place, your natural state, your new normal. Where there was once anxiety or self-consciousness in the presence of women, there is now stillness. Not indifference, not aloofness, but calm assurance. You are not moved by surface impressions, nor are you shaken by allure. You have seen beauty before. You've known desire, but now you seek resonance, substance, soul. In this equilibrium, you treat your interactions as sacred exchanges, not performances. You are not seeking to be impressive, you are seeking to be present. And when someone meets you in that space, When the connection is real and deep, you know it instantly. You don't need games or signals. You feel it in the alignment, in the ease, in the clarity that flows between you. And you also feel it when the energy is off, when it is rooted in projection or fantasy. In those moments, you don't lean in, you lean back. Not from fear, but from wisdom. You no longer engage with what doesn't nourish you. You no longer betray your spirit for fleeting validation. You have learned that your fire is sacred, and not everyone is meant to walk in it. Equilibrium makes you magnetic in a new way. Not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. Women sense that you don't need anything from them, yet your presence still moves them. They feel safe, not because you've dimmed yourself, but because you've owned yourself fully. There is nothing desperate in you, nothing performative, just presence, just truth, just an open invitation that says, "This is who I am. Meet me here or not at all." You are no longer lost in the current of your own energy. You are directing it, shaping it, embodying it. This balance, once thought impossible, now becomes the foundation of your life. And from this foundation, everything begins to change. Your choices sharpen, your standards rise, your relationships deepen. Because you are no longer chasing anything, you are choosing everything. And it shows. In your voice, in your walk, in the spaces you inhabit. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer apologize for your presence. You no longer fear being too much. You are not too much. You are just enough for what is meant for you. And you have earned this balance. Not through perfection, but through presence. Not through force, but through alignment. You are the chosen one. And now, you move in equilibrium. The chosen one, once awakened and balanced, eventually arrives at a place where silence becomes louder than noise and stillness reveals more than motion. It is here, in this sacred quiet, that the mirror appears. Not the one made of glass, but the one made of experience, of choice, of every moment lived with your high sexual energy active and alive within you. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't filter. It simply reflects, offering the most honest glimpse of who you are when no one is watching. And in that reflection, you begin to see not just what you've done, but why you've done it. You trace the pattern of glances you responded to, the conversations you pursued, the women you gave your energy to, and the ones you withheld it from. You remember the connections that felt divine and those that left a strange emptiness behind. You recall the moments where you stood in integrity and the moments where you faltered. All of it now present, now clear. But this is not shame. This is not guilt. This is refinement. The mirror exists not to wound you, but to shape you. It does not accuse, it invites. It asks, softly but firmly, "Is this who you choose to be now?" This is where true self-respect is forged. Not in public victories or accolades, but in private honesty. You begin to ask yourself the questions most never dare to. When you felt drawn to her, was it her soul or your hunger? When you walked away, was it wisdom or fear? When you leaned in, were you present or performing? These questions are not comfortable, but they are necessary, because to carry this level of energy and presence without reflection is to drift into chaos disguised as freedom. Many burn with intensity, but few sustain it with clarity. Many attract attention, but few hold it with responsibility. The chosen one must rise beyond the surface of charm and into the depths of conscious being. That is what the mirror demands, not perfection but awareness, not guilt but growth. And as you continue to reflect, something profound begins to happen. You start reclaiming lost pieces of yourself. You forgive the younger version of you who didn't know better. You honor the one who tried, who failed, who learned. You stop resenting your own desire. You stop fearing your own power. You see it now, not as something separate from your spirit, but as an extension of it. This is where you begin to see your high sexual energy, not just as a flame, but as a light, a guiding force, a compass that, when purified through reflection, leads you not to conquest, but to alignment. And you realize something else too. Every woman you've encountered was a mirror as well. Each one reflecting back to you a lesson you were ready or not ready to learn. Some were teachers, some were warnings, some were simply echoes of what you once believed you needed. But now, with the mirror of self in front of you, you no longer project your value onto them. You carry it from within. The chosen one no longer asks, "What do they think of me?" You ask, "Does this reflect the man I've become?" That question reshapes everything. It redefines attraction. It sharpens your discernment. It deepens your purpose. You no longer need the mirror to feel seen. You carry your reflection with you. You walk in alignment, knowing who you are, what you carry, and what you will no longer betray for temporary validation. You have looked into the mirror and chosen to rise. And now you see clearly. There is something noble, almost regal, in the chosen one who has been tempered. Not by loss, not by defeat, but by choice. By the decision to remain solid where others might sway. By the commitment to be more than a flame that flares and fades. By the fire that is no longer explosive, but enduring, steady, precise. Tempering is not weakness. It is strength that has passed through fire and emerged aware of itself. You begin to feel this change in the way you move through life. You are no longer reactive. You do not rush toward affection, nor do you retreat from attention. You are measured, not calculating, but centered. You understand that your energy, powerful as it is not meant for everything and everyone. And so you become highly selective, not out of superiority, but stewardship. You feel the pull of connection, but now you test its weight before you give it your name. You sense the interest from others, but now you pause to ask, is this aligned with who I am becoming? Your sexual energy, once a wild river that overflowed into every open space, now flows like a channel carved by intention. You know where it belongs. You know when to let it rise and when to keep it still. You know how to speak with your presence without speaking recklessly with your body. There is no more shame in your desire, but there is discipline in how you carry it. This is what makes the tempered chosen one so rare. You are not numb. You are fiercely alive, but you are no longer ruled by impulse. You do not feed your power through shallow encounters. You do not trade your essence for applause. You've tasted the emptiness of false fire. You've known what it's like to win the moment, but lose your peace. And so now, when a connection arises, you meet it with wholeness. Not with the hunger to be filled, but with the wisdom to see what is real. You can hold space for desire without being consumed by it. You can enjoy the dance without losing the rhythm of your own spirit. Tempering is the alchemy of maturity. It's the ability to feel deeply and act wisely. It's the rare strength to wait, to not rush, to not grab, to not bend your standards for momentary satisfaction. And from this place, something extraordinary happens. Your value becomes felt, not flaunted. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. They feel it in the way you listen, the way you breathe, the way you don't chase, the way you don't need. You've moved from the craving of attention to the cultivation of essence. You no longer give energy recklessly because you've learned that not everyone knows how to hold it. Your presence is now a sacred currency, and only those who walk in equal truth can afford its full experience. This is not coldness, it is care. For yourself, for your purpose, for the life you are building with every thought, every choice, every breath. The tempered chosen one is not afraid of the fire. You are the fire, but now you burn with intention. And the world, once drawn to your spark, now learns to respect your flame. After the heat of awakening, the silence of reflection, and the discipline of tempering, the chosen one begins to realize a higher truth. This energy, this deep, vibrating pulse within, was never meant to be hoarded or hidden. It was always an offering, not a transaction, not a weapon, not a prize, but a sacred expression of life force meant to uplift, to awaken, to touch and elevate everything it encounters. And now you understand. All the fear you once had about being too much around women, all the shame for your own magnetism, all the discomfort of being seen, all of it dissolves in the light of this truth. Your presence is no longer about performance. It is about service, not servitude, not submission, but conscious, deliberate offering. When you enter a space, you no longer wonder how you will be received. You ask instead, what do I bring into this space? What atmosphere follows your presence? What permission do others feel when you speak, not just to be heard, but to be themselves? You begin to feel the responsibility of your power in a new way. It doesn't weigh you down, it doesn't ask you to diminish, it simply invites you to become aware. You see now that your sexual energy is not just something that stirs attraction, it stirs memory. It calls others back to the part of themselves they've hidden, abandoned, or dulled. When someone steps into your presence, they don't just notice you, they begin to notice themselves more clearly. Their heart beats louder. Their voice quivers with truth. Their breath deepens. This is what it means to offer your energy consciously. You are no longer just a man. You are an invitation to remember. And this offering isn't made with words or gestures or even eye contact. It is made with being. You no longer rush to touch. You allow your presence to touch first. You no longer need to convince. You simply stand, and the rest unfolds. And you begin to notice, those who come close to you now don't come just for pleasure. They come for presence. They come for truth. They come because they sense, even if they can't name it, that you are offering something deeper than surface-level attention. You are offering yourself. Not in pieces, not in performance, but in wholeness. This is why you guard your energy now, not out of fear, but out of devotion. You no longer share it to be seen, you share it to serve. You no longer open the gates to everyone, you reserve your fire for those who carry their own. Because when two people meet in mutual offering, without ego or demand, something sacred is created. A space where masks fall, where souls speak, where energy doesn't just rise, it heals. You don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to demonstrate your power. You walk in it, you speak with it, you are it. And in doing so, you offer others the chance to rise with you. That is your gift. That is your responsibility. That is your offering. And now, everything you touch remembers who it is meant to be. There is a grace that settles in when the chosen one fully aligns. Not a grace born of ease, but of deep integration. No longer divided between desire and discipline, instinct and purpose, you now walk with every part of yourself moving in the same direction. The chaos has quieted. The urgency has softened. And in its place, there is clarity. Not the kind you chase, but the kind that finds you. Alignment is not stillness in the absence of motion. It is stillness within motion. It is knowing that every step you take, every glance you give, every word you speak flows from the same inner truth. You are not torn anymore. You are whole. This is when life begins to bend around your presence in mysterious ways. Not because you demand it, but because you are in tune. You don't need to push or manipulate. You are guided. You follow a rhythm that is not rushed, and yet everything seems to arrive right on time. You meet the right people, enter the right spaces, speak at the right moment. Your alignment speaks louder than any strategy. Around women, this alignment is undeniable. Your energy no longer just attracts, it grounds. It no longer just excites, it awakens. You are not there to impress. You are not there to hide. You are there to see and be seen. There is no need to chase, no desire to dominate. You simply are, and that is enough. They feel it in how you look at them, like you're not reaching for anything, but receiving what is real. Like you're not consumed by desire, but guided by discernment. Like you're not seeking validation, but recognizing value. Your gaze does not consume, it confirms, it affirms, it remembers. And when the alignment is mutual, something timeless opens. Conversations deepen, time slows, and energy flows like music between two instruments, perfectly tuned. Not every connection will reach this level. Not every person you meet will walk this way. But you are no longer shaken by that. You are not waiting to be completed. You are available to complete the moment with whomever is ready to walk beside you, however briefly or eternally it may be. This alignment also frees you from attachment to outcomes. You don't need every encounter to lead somewhere. Sometimes, your energy was meant to remind someone of their light and then move on. Sometimes the resonance is brief but beautiful. You've stopped measuring your value by how long someone stays. You've begun measuring by how deeply you show up. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You know that not everyone will have the capacity to feel what you carry. And that's okay. Your alignment is not meant for everyone. It is meant for the right ones. For those who see not just the flame, but the foundation. Who don't just admire your presence, but honor your path. You have stopped negotiating with your worth. You have stopped editing your truth to fit into smaller rooms. You walk as you are, speak as you are, live as you are. And that is where real power begins. Not in domination, but in devotion. Not in force, but in flow. You are aligned now with your body, with your energy, with your spirit. And from this alignment, everything rises. By now, the chosen one no longer walks the earth as a seeker of approval, but as a bringer of presence. Something has shifted, not in how others see you, but in how you see. The world, once chaotic and filled with uncertainty, now reveals itself to you with sharper clarity. Patterns emerge, energy speaks louder than words, and your path begins to expand, not outward in ego, but inward through depth. This expansion is not about becoming bigger or louder. It is about becoming truer. Your energy, once raw and unsure, now flows with purpose. It no longer scatters or burns out. It circulates, moves, and replenishes. The power that once made you feel different now becomes the reason people feel safe around you. Your high sexual energy is no longer a fire you fear or hide. It is the warmth that steadies others, the light that awakens them, the spark that reminds them of something they forgot they were allowed to feel. You begin to influence others without trying to. Your words stay with them long after the conversation ends. Your silence says more than many can explain. You're no longer just a man with intensity. You are a soul in full coherence with himself. And coherence is magnetic. It's not the magnetism of flash or performance. It's the quiet gravity of someone who knows exactly who they are and doesn't flinch when the world pushes or pulls. You feel this expansion in the relationships you attract. Shallow connections fall away without conflict, they simply fade. And in their place, more profound exchanges emerge. People who are curious, awake, intentional. Women who are not impressed by posturing but moved by presence. They sense the power in you, not because it is loud, but because it is stable. They sense the fire but feel no fear because it is held with maturity, kindness, and control. This is when you begin to understand the reach of your energy. You've gone from reacting to it to shaping it, and now you begin to share it. You use your voice to encourage, not to impress. You give your presence without agenda. You uplift without needing praise. You are no longer trying to be seen, you are trying to see. And this shift changes everything. It changes how you approach life too. The woman across the room who locks eyes with you, the conversation that brushes against something sacred, the hand that lingers just a little longer than it should, these are no longer distractions. They are invitations. Not to conquest, but to connection, to presence, to choosing rather than reacting. Your power expands not because you accumulate more. It expands because you require less. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. You don't need to win. You don't need to be right. You just need to be. And this state of being ripples into everything. How you love, how you walk, how you hold space. People may ask what's changed. They'll try to name it. Confidence, aura, magnetism. But you'll know it's none of those things individually. It's the harmony of everything within you finally aligned, finally awakened, finally freed from the chains of inferiority and the illusion of needing more. The chosen one in expansion doesn't rise like a king taking a throne. You rise like the tide, quiet, unstoppable, deeply rooted in truth. And the world, whether it understands you or not, begins to respond accordingly. By the time the chosen one reaches the final stretch of this phase, the idea of arrival no longer holds weight. There is no final destination, no crown waiting at the end, no perfect version of yourself emerging from smoke and gold. What remains is something far more valuable. Movement without force, power without noise, truth without needing to be defended. You come to understand that this journey was never about superiority over others, especially not over women. It was never about proving that you were good enough, strong enough, attractive enough. That illusion has died. What remains is the humble awareness that you are always enough. And now you finally become aligned with that truth. You are not finished, but you are formed. And from this formation, a new type of life begins. You move with integrity, not because you fear judgment, but because anything else feels foreign. You don't chase intimacy because you've become intimate with yourself. You don't avoid connection because you're no longer afraid of what you might lose. You are not reactive. You are responsive. You are not easily stirred. You are deeply aware. Women no longer intimidate you, not because you've become immune to beauty or desire, but because you honor it without need. You can admire without attachment. You can feel attraction without losing your center. Your energy no longer begs to be validated. It offers validation through your very presence. You've become someone who doesn't need attention to feel worthy. You are the quiet answer in a world full of loud questions. In this continuum, you stop expecting every encounter to be life-changing. Some people come to stay, some come to teach. some come to challenge. You meet them all with the same presence, the same fire, the same unwavering calm. You don't cling, you don't close, you trust the energy, you trust the rhythm, you trust yourself. This is the true liberation. Not from others, but from the old version of you that doubted, that apologized, that second-guessed every word and breath. He served his purpose, he brought you here. But you've outgrown him. You've risen into someone who holds his fire like a blade, not to harm, but to cut through illusion. The chosen one doesn't arrive. You evolve. You become the man who no longer defines himself by how he is seen, but by how he sees. The man who no longer measures his energy by how many he can attract, but by how well he can align.